Welcome to another episode of the Whole Truth and Nothing But the Truth podcast. We are Patrick and Teri Caserta, authors of the Brandon Act and founders of the Brandon Caserta Foundation.
Today's subject matter is going to be chain of commands. I should have probably started with this one, but I went on the other one. I wanted to talk about the chain of command to all of you. First off, I realized that from day one in basic training, it's drilled into your head and what a chain of command is and how it's supposed to work. Now, let's face it, chain of commands, most of them are broken. We all know this. And if we don't, we've been part of broken ones and maybe we got into good ones. It's possible. I'm not going to, again, criticize every chain of command in the world. I'm here to assume 70% of them are pretty functional and 30% of them are dysfunctional. But the point being is you entrust everything with the chain of command. That alone is a mistake. When I say that, meaning, why is it that you won't entrust mental health with them? Because you know what they'll do. And you won't entrust certain personal things with them because you know what they'll do. But more importantly, I want to point out something about a chain of command. And I also want to point something about all these officers on the ship. We have a record number of suicides in the military, and each year we break the previous year's number. And they stand around and do nothing about it. They allow all this shenanigans to occur. They do nothing about it. And nobody stops to even think about it. I don't understand, because it's easy to blame your chief. It's easy to blame your LPO. Those people are part of the problem, don't get me wrong, because they bought into it. The reason they bought into it is because they're star chasers, most of them, and they bought into it. And obviously star chasers, it works. They get away with it. Well, I'm here to tell you, these star chasers, you need to put a stop to them. When I say that is, I already told you it works. I know it works. I've seen it in action. But my point is, you want to mess up a star chaser, then why don't you just openly tell the truth? I mean, especially if the star chaser's been turned in for something, they did it to you and 10 others and you witnessed it, you should be coming forward, whether it be anonymous or whatever. You should get the word out. I tell you, nothing screws up a star chaser more than the truth. And remember how I said the truth. Don't make things up, just tell the truth. And in our son's case, they sat there and watched them abuse our son. And nobody did anything. Nobody did a thing. I mean, his chief, by the name of Hannard, is a total disgrace to the military. I cannot believe that she did absolutely nothing and she gets away with it. And she doesn't even care that he's dead. When did it dawn on her that he is dead? And when did it click with her that she has blood on her hands and she doesn't even care? And for the record, just so you know, there'll be nobody talked about ever on these podcasts is when it comes to our son's death. None of them called us. None of them sent a card. None of them sent flowers. None of them came to his funeral. Just so you know this. This is factual. And these chain of commands are powerful people that own you, and you know they own you. And that's the problem. You need to break that nugget away, and you need to function properly. They're there to support you and help you excel, and that's their job. That's everyone too. I mean, don't get me wrong. Let's face it. You have a split. There's hard chargers and not so hard chargers, and there's non-chargers, we'll call them. Those people, that divides up the group. You need people, like it or not, if you want to get ahead of people, you need people that don't want to make advancement or not in a hurry to make advancement. You take advantage of that. That's obvious. But the bottom line is, we're taught from day one, if we're a hard charger, that everything will come our way. Well, our son was a hard charger along with all these other people. And it's a fact. Our son was the hardest, best worker in the command. That's their words, not ours. So bottom line is, you're a hard charger, you need a chain of command to support you. And you cannot allow these chain of commands to get away with what they get away with. You need to hold them accountable. I mean, from day one, you're taught if the ship sinks, it's the CO's fault. How's it the CO's fault? A suicide is not their fault. And not just one, take it to 10. I mean, we're at the 10 number for the George Washington. Nothing's happened to that CO, nothing. They went out to the ship because we made a big deal about it. They went out there and they kept it closed press, nothing. You'll hear nothing about it. They went out and talked to him. I'm sure he assured them he's doing everything. Yet I guarantee he didn't give his home number out, his own personal cell number to everybody in that command, but he put the word out. Well, get this. Apparently today there was another suicide. Guess where? Norfolk, Virginia. Not that that would surprise you any. It's just like in the water, like I told you. And yet nobody does anything. And these parents are devastated. Families, friends, loved ones are devastated over this. And yet commands, a lot of them don't care. And then the ones that want to care have to do it secretly. And they never can come forward until they feel comfortable. And that is wrong. You should be able to come forward right away because you like that person, love that person for who they were, whatever it is. And that is totally wrong. So in summary, putting them on a pedestal and letting the CO sit on a throne is your choice. Look how they act. You allow them to act that way. You need toxic abusive leadership and abuse of power can't rise unless you let it rise. You let it rise in your command, that is your fault. However, you can do something at any time and pull the plug. All you have to do is turn them in. And turning them in, I'm telling you for the truth. Okay. I'm not asking you to make things up. I'm talking about you witness like our son where they're totally abusing somebody in public in front of people. You need to turn that person in. Or better yet, if you're an E5 or above, you need to take care of it and talk to that person. But you could talk to that person if you're an E1. It doesn't matter. They could get mad all they want to. The bottom line is you could talk to them and say that was wrong. That's another way to cure toxic abusive leadership. Some of these people, they don't know any better. And so that by talking to them, you make them think. And maybe you just don't talk to them, 10 others talk to them. Then they'll get the point. That's what you need to do. That's how you put a stop to that. You know, in Brandon's case, they watched, and I already said that, but to be repetitive, if you look, there's a 10-page letter, there's a 7-page letter and a 6-page letter to 3 women. They were all E4 and above. One of them, I think, was an E5. And the E5, after Brandon died, she told us on the phone, she said, word for word to me, I'll never forget it. She said, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going with the command on this one. I'll never forget that. I lost it. I couldn't believe it. Here I am, an E8, retired E8, Navy counselor, and our son's dead. And her good friend is dead. And she has the audacity to say that to me.
Meaning she's not going to talk to us.
Right. And she didn't even care that he's dead. Look, read that letter. You tell me if they're friends. You know what her statement says? You can look it up if you choose to. She criticizes him. And she says she don't know why, or words of the fact that why he left her a letter. They weren't that close. Really? You expect me to believe this? Do you know how many times we figured out that Brandon was with her or riding with her, going somewhere, doing something? And not only that, we have all the texts. There is thousands upon thousands of them. And let me tell you something about those texts. This woman named Katrina, what's her last name? Anyway, Katrina Cardin. We have thousands of texts going back and forth to Brandon. You know what these texts consist of? And she's an E5. Brandon's telling her about some of the problems he has. You know, she ignores them and throws them to the side and works on her problems with them. They all did that. All 3 of those women he left those letters with. Every one of them. I have the proof. You don't believe me. Phones are locked in a safe outside of our reach where nobody can get them on purpose. $2,000 or $3,000 phones. $3,000 worth of phones are locked up because we have all the evidence on the phones. And the bottom line is these people were never his true friends. They used this kid. Either that or they got rewarded tremendously. I hope it was worth the medal or advancement to ignore the fact that your friend died, a good friend of yours that actually loved you for you, considering you had your own set of problems that we won't discuss on this episode. The bottom line is these people need to be held accountable. The other thing is these 13 people that killed our son, they need to be held accountable. How do you let a Dwayne Whitmer command again? How do you let a Trevor Prouty command again? A David Tarkowski? I mean, that guy, I was on the phone with that guy. You know what he put in a statement? You can read it. I was on the phone with him 45 minutes before Brandon died. He was arguing with me round and round. We were going round and round about a driver's license and some other stuff. And I reported Brandon's credit card stolen to Tarkowski. That was one of the issues on the phone that he didn't like. And the bottom line was that they stole his credit card and used it. And that is factual. I have that evidence too, if you need to see it. But this Tarkowski guy puts in his statement that we called him and because we had lost contact with our son. He's insinuating our son was already dead. Now, I assure you, I have it on my phone how long the calls were and everything. And I had ingoing, outgoing because he got off the first call and had to call me back. In between calls, he went and yelled at Brandon and screamed at him. And next thing you know, our son is jumping in the tail rotor of a helo. So you tell me what he did. When he could have saved his life, he went there and caused the death right there. This is factual. But to take it a step further, he wrote in the statement that Brandon was already dead when we called him. He lied. So are you going to tell me you're going to believe that I called him and I called him to discuss football or baseball or soccer or something? I mean, what was I calling for? Why in the world did I call that guy? And why would I'm not going to call him. I lost touch with Brandon. I'm going to call the quarterback. I'm going to get a hold of somebody important. So the bottom line is he proved himself not to be important, number one, because he didn't care about our son. And number two is he's one of the reasons he's dead. He could have saved Brandon's life, literally. Him and Remy Spence, they were both there. Trust me, they could have saved his life. Matter of fact, Spence is one of the more responsible ones on this, and no one even knows it because he turned his back on Brandon. They were buddies, literally buddies. Spence is a self-proclaimed mentor, and I've spoken to him before in the past. And that guy was a lazy counselor who didn't know what he was doing and deliberately sabotaged Brandon because that's what Tarkowski and Lorette wanted. That is sad that you would do something like that when the Navy needs air crewmen and you would turn around on him and do that and not even let him know secretly what's going on. Because had we had a heads up, I could have fixed this very easily. I'm mad at myself for not fixing it before. I could have called the detailer myself and I didn't even think of it until after our son was dead. And the detailer told me word for word that he did not have to resubmit a package and that he hadn't spoken to the command since September of 2017. Well, we're in June of 2018 here. And Brandon did another package and he didn't need to. And the detailer was waiting to find him fit for duty. Brandon was found fit for duty on 28 March 2018. Brandon could have left in 2 weeks. The guy told me he would add him out there in 2 weeks, just like that. They didn't want to lose him. So that's what happened there. But let's continue on. I want you to imagine something. I've said this before when I'm talking more detail. I don't even you imagine going to a room with 7 people and just a chief by the name of Doug D'Alessandro's on the computer, and he's from Arizona, and he's in the DMV database during work hours with your name and everything. Oh, I skipped the part. Bros came up to Brandon half hour before that and asked him to write down his social security number, his address, and full name. He took that information, gave it to D'Alessandro, and they were in the room, all 7 of them, on the computer. They called Brandon in. Bros gets Brandon, brings him in, and there's 7 people standing there, and they're on the computer in his stuff, his personal stuff, mind you. And then they wanted a copy of whatever was in the computer, and Brandon didn't need a copy of it, nor did he want one. But they were kind. They changed his address for him without his permission. And they wanted money to pay for something. And they didn't, so when Brandon showed him his wallet, did he have any cash in there? They saw a credit card and they friggin' grabbed his credit card and charged it. That is theft. Doug D'Alessandro did this. He's an ensign now. And for the record, he did this. He broke 18 different federal laws on this. Go look it up if you don't believe me. Some of them come to your HIPAA. Those are minor compared to what this guy did. Okay, that's minor compared to the laws he broke. Get this. Out of the whole investigation, to include NCIS, whom I reported Doug D'Alessandro to and I reported to command, no one ever spoke to him. They hid him. And not only did they hide him, NCIS asked about him and Whitmer told him I had him verifying something. That was an outright lie. And not only that, he was never spoken to. How could you not speak to somebody who steals a credit card and charges on it? He not only stole that, he stole Brandon's driver's license. Believe it or not, that's his fact too, by the way. He stole Brandon's driver's license, literally, after he was dead. So he contributes to his death. How does he feel? I mean, when did it dawn on him that Brandon was dead? I don't get it. But what I really don't get, he's an officer now. You guys let him be an officer? How can he be an officer? He killed someone and you allow him to be an officer? How in the world could you do that? How could you trust this guy? If your wallet was missing, he's the first one I think of, I guarantee it. Heck, if I was on vacation in Norfolk, my wallet was missing, he's the first one I'd think of. I'm not kidding. This guy is a joke. And he acts like nothing happened. He acts like he didn't do anything wrong. Oh, yes, he did.
Accessory to murder.
That's a fact, among others. Like I said, the charges, they're in my phone. I haven't written down. Sorry, I meant to pull them up before we talk. They'll come up on another podcast. There's special wording for this that is used in this stuff that the FBI and stuff gave me on this. But anyway, there's hope still because he's still in the military, number one. And number two is this is far from over. When I say that is, just trust me, it's being looked into. I can only tell you so much. I know you're probably tired of hearing about Brandon's story. Here's the deal. Brandon's story is ground zero to get the word out on suicide to prevent it. We are going to bring military suicides to zero, and we're going to do it together. Us, America, we're going to do it because the military is not going to do it. And you know the Navy ain't going to do it. We're going to do it together. So we use Brandon's story as ground zero, and we get the word out, and then we get the deaths to zero, and then we go from there. But we hold people accountable. That whole chain of command everywhere is accountable, not just in Brandon's death. Every one of them need to be held accountable in some form or another. How can you have 10 suicides? Please tell me. I got to hear this. I'd love to hear an explanation of how this is even conceivable. That you could have 10 suicides on the same ship in the same place, tied to the pier in dry dock. Like I said, I went through dry dock once. That was, I think we were in there 4 months. It was great. That was probably one of my better times. Yeah, I worked hard, and I'm not going to lie to you that I didn't do garbage work, and I was an E5, and I was not an LPO, I was a work center supervisor, and we worked, I don't know, probably 4 good hours a day, I'd say, painting and stuff like that, fixing our own stuff, cleaning our own stuff up, making it better, getting our gear better. We worked hard. I'm not going to deny that. And going into dry dock and coming out of dry dock, everybody has to post watch and look for leaks. And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. But while we were there, all I had to do was stand duty. I didn't have to worry about going to see nothing. And all the base were there. I cracked a tooth when I was in there. Remember, I went to dental right away. I mean, it was just great. I was on a cruiser, so it wasn't it wasn't aircraft. We didn't have dental or doctor or anything. But the bottom line is it was great times for us. But the parking did suck, but they actually fixed that. And you know how they fixed it? They arranged with the exchange for us to park in there. We were able to park. And we only had to walk across the street, but they also arranged further down parking lots, and they had a shuttle come around and pick everybody up in the morning and bring them back. All day long, the shuttle ran. So you had to leave at any time, you could go, and they brought you back. That's how you do it. That's how it's done. Okay, this is in the 1980s here, early 1990s. I'm not talking about modern times. Modern times, they could do better than that. Greyhound air conditioned bus and stuff. Our thing was no air conditioning or anything. They had just open windows and stuff. They had a comfortable bus picking you up and taking you around.
Was this in San Diego?
Yes, it was. It was in San Diego, and they could do that in Norfolk, Virginia, in modern times. And but anyway, these deaths, we have to put a stop to it. We're going to go through all these podcasts in the future and talk about how we're going to do that together and work together. Our son, you'll hear his name a lot. The subject's going to come up a lot. I'm warning you a lot. This is not about him. We need to use his story. There are hundreds of thousands of others out there we could use. We don't know them. We know our son's story. We know some of the others. We don't know them all. But what we do know is we take this story and we build upon it with the others. And that's how we get the word out. And that's how we fix this. Because chain of commands need to be held accountable for suicides. Remember, I'm talking about the kind of suicides that are on the Washington. I'm not, some of the stuff, I understand when you disagree with me. A kid goes home, he's depressed. He broke up with his girlfriend. he slits his wrist or she slits her wrist. I get how the chain of command wouldn't be responsible for that. But here's what I do submit to you. On TV, I just saw the commercials yesterday on the Marines all day long. They had them flowing. And they talk about companionship and camaraderie and looking out for each other and a close-knit team and all that. So explain to me something. If one of your people's hurting, one of them are hurting, and you really fit that mold, how are you not going to know and tell that person you're there for them 24/7? And how are they not going to know you're there? And in the middle of the night, you don't get a phone call and they're crying and you don't know what's going on and they tell you they're hurting. That's what I'm talking about, responsibility. This is what I'm talking about. No one does that. There's no, I mean, I don't even know training. You guys hold the same training on suicide and you've been holding. Every once in a while, it's a little different. The difference is a different 800 number to call. Or, oh, there's another hotline to call. That's not how it's done. You fix this by attacking the source. The source is toxic abusive leadership and abuse of power. And the source is the fact that you are not a close-knit crew and that people are not looking out for you like they're supposed to be. There's your problems right there. There's some of them. There's more. How do we get around that? We're going to talk about that in the future, not on this podcast, but trust me, we will talk about that. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. And get this, nothing you ain't heard already. Nothing that you haven't heard already. It's just a matter of getting it done systematically, correct and right, and putting an importance on something. Remember, safety is a priority. Why? Well, I can't hear you, but you're going to tell me because it saves lives. Well, preventing suicide, if it was an equal priority, it would save lives, it wouldn't it? Yes, we would. Think about it. There is no priority. And why? I could come up with a lot of reasons of why. I don't want to talk about it here, but there's a lot of reasons that the military probably doesn't care. Unfortunately, what you'll hear from me and what you will find out you're not going to like. You're not going to like it one bit. Trust me. But for now, we need to fix it together. So enough of that. We talked about chain of commands. Obviously, if you're going to put them on a pedestal and a throne, then you're allowing yourself to be subjected to it. And I'm here to tell you, they can turn on you at any moment. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good you are. Trust me, get accused of something you didn't do and watch them turn on you. Some get lucky, get accused of something twice and watch what they do to you. If you got out of the first one because you were well liked, watch. And again, it's not hard. And the difference between, like somebody told me, the difference between being UA and late is who you work for. Don't ever forget that. That is a fact. I cannot bring it. That is a home run example of the military right there. But that's an example in real life too. I'm not going to deny that either. The problem is in real life, we have modern society compassion and society dictates policy. Society says if somebody's late once, no, we don't do bad things to them. The military, on the other hand, they like you or not, right? That's how it works. You know it is. So don't forget that. So moving on, I have some articles here. I'll go over the ones that I guess the piece didn't try. So they're offering $2,500 for people to ship out right away. The Navy is actually, $25,000. Gee, why is that? And then you know the jobs they're going to get are not good jobs, but let's just say they are. $2,500. Why in the world would you have to incentivize that much if the military is such a great place to work and everything? Obviously, the suicides, the Vanessa Guillen, and all this stuff is catching up to them, is it not? The military decisively said that the recruiting was not affected by any of the things that went on with certain events that happened over the years. Well, there's an example. They're hurting. Next, we have a mental health crisis, suicidal behavior. They're giving iPads out to people. This is a VA thing. The VA feels by giving iPads out that hurts. It's not a bad thing, but again, this is a point I'm trying to make to you. The VA is giving out iPads. At least they're doing something. You have to commend them considering active duty caused the problem. So I commend them on that, actually, because they inherited the problem. Again, $1,000 iPad, is that going to solve suicide? No, but even if it saved one life, it's worth every penny and some, but it'll probably save several. And it's not the apps on there. It's the fact that it's just like I said, sometimes when people open doors and windows to different views in life with their friends and family and how they can connect with them, it changes what they do. That's the whole point. Next one is sailor accused. That my favorite one of the fire on the Bahamas Shard. Unbelievable. He's being court-martialed. Now, remember, I'm not here to tell you he did or didn't do it. I'm not going down that road, okay? I'm not going to judge him in any way, shape, or form, but I'm going to say this. They're accusing a disgruntled sailor of setting a fire because he didn't make it through SEALs. And yet, do you know what they do to these people in SEALs? Let me tell you, it actually changed for a couple of months too. And we had a hand in that along with Senator Kane. I did not know that the program got taken. It was a test program. It had to be successful. Why it got taken away, I don't know. But here's the deal. These people, when they don't make it through, they get reclassified. You know how it works? I witnessed this 25 times to include our son. I was standing right outside the door when this happened with our son in San Diego. What they do is they give them a list up to 5 jobs. Most of them got 3 based upon your score. Now, most of them have high scores to qualify SEAL, just so you know that. They gave them 30 minutes to pick one of those 3 jobs. And if they don't pick one at 30 minutes, they'll pick it for them. I could hear them in the background saying you got 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. That's how bad that process was to these kids. And they didn't make it through for various reasons. Our son broke his leg. They didn't provide him medical treatment, nor did they take him to medical, ever. So you know that. That's another story too. We'll talk about that on another podcast. Bottom line is so many others fall in those categories. So this guy's accused of setting a fire. I'd be disgruntled too. I didn't make it through and I went to deck seaman. Are you kidding me? And I'd love to know what they call that in modern days. You guys are going to have to tell me. I challenge you, you listen to this. Please tell me what they call that, because I found out something new a couple of weeks ago that floored me. That mess cooking is called dietary now. Unbelievable. I was rolling every time the mom mentioned this, because the news would ask where your son's working. She goes, dietary, or which job? And she'd say dietary. And I'm like rolling, laughing over that. Okay, I commend you, Navy. Good job covering that one. But anyway, this guy is disgruntled. He didn't make it through. Well, you can't expect him to be happy. And the thing about it is you should start over again after that. They had a test program in place because we complained, because our son in his letter, he said he'd never be here if it wasn't for that process, because he wanted to go at a minimum to take an air crewman. He really wanted diver or EOD. EOD is what he really wanted. So our son wouldn't even be in the circumstances he was in had he gotten what he wanted. Why shouldn't you get exactly what you want? It should be like you're joining the military again. Now you have to qualify, but you'll qualify for waivers, trust me, if any are needed or whatever. The bottom line is they could give you any job you want. How do you do that? Well, I know this because I was in recruiting, and in the late 90s, anything anybody wanted, we were giving it to them, and we were overmanning the schools on purpose. And then what we would do is we'd be at the airport when people would come in with basic training, and they'd have to stay at the airport because basic training could only take so many a day. And then what would happen is they would make it through basic training, go to their school. Well, the schools could only take so many people weekly. So they put these people to work. They worked for months, but they got what they wanted. Yeah, it was a mess. I'm not going to deny it. And cost a lot of money. The bottom line is they made everybody happy. And that's all that mattered, because they knew that people weren't going to join unless they got what they wanted. So they gave it to them. That was how they fixed their shipping goal. And the bottom line is there's nothing wrong with that if you really analyze it. But in the case of the SEALs, they should get exactly what they want afterward. So because this kid's disgruntled, he's accused of the fire. Somebody thinks they saw him, and then they turns out they didn't, and they did, and they can't make up their mind if they saw him or not in that area. So for this guy being seen in areas accused of starting a fire, but let's make pretend he did start this fire. Look at all this investigative work that went into this, and all this evidence they have against this kid, which amounts to nothing, but they investigated this forever. Why? Because this $6.2 billion ship burned to the ground, and that's how much it's going to cost to replace it. So they make a big deal out of it. The SEAL wasn't fired. He wasn't held accountable, nothing. Nobody died in this and they spent all that money on this. Yet our son dies, they don't spend hardly any money. But what about all the other 10,000 suicides that have happened since our son's death? They don't spend that kind of money to get to the bottom of it. They don't even care.
They only spent less than 7 days investigating Brandon's death.
That's a fact. And all they investigated was the ME says he died by blunt force trauma. And yes, their determination was he died by blunt force trauma. Everything else was fluff, everything. There's stuff in that report that's a joke. There's actually some stuff that could be used later and will be used later. But the bottom line is they didn't do anything with it. They should have turned it into a criminal investigation immediately, and they didn't. They didn't because they protect officers. That's what they do. They'll never admit it. Ask them. Of course, remember, this is the same group of people, just so you know. They went to our son's room and they went through all this stuff. And they didn't find some stuff that we found later when we received the stuff and we told them about it. They acted like they had seen it. Trust me. There was another letter in there. Had they seen that letter, they would have grabbed it. There was USB drives. They would have grabbed it. This is what I'm talking about, how they did not investigate this properly. They didn't care. You should always care when somebody's dead. I think we've been taught that for a long time, and that's never going to change. Let's see. Diversity and climate change last year. They talk about that. They spent all this money on this stuff, which I'm not going to say is not important. My whole point is, why do you have a command climate? Or no, we spend all this money on climate change. That's important, but when are you going to spend money on suicide, preventing it? I mean, setting up another hotline, that's great. What you do different? You go before Congress. We set up an additional 50 hotlines. That's just lovely. And we have people manning those. That's just lovely too. Hotlines are great. Like I pointed out to you, and I'll stand behind it. A hotline will save somebody's life. Let's go with that. Those good people there. That person hangs up that phone, or a week later, they take their life. They have no way of knowing. That is a preventative action. Proactive is what saves people. Getting them to the door of a psychologist. And notice how I said psychologist, not a social worker, a psychologist, not a trained corpsman in suicide, a psychologist. Okay, if you're out at sea in the middle of a war, fine. The corpsman will be fine. Okay, I have no problem with it. That is not what was going on here. And that is not what's going on with these tests. You get them to the door, the psychologist says they have a 99.9 success rate of getting somebody on a journey to healing. What a tremendous mark. What more could you ask for right there? And they're taught that going to psychologists is not a bad thing. They're taught all kinds of things. So if they have future problems, they know what to do. And this will follow them forever through the VA or the personal insurance someday. They'll know. Marital problems, friend problem, whatever. They can go there and talk. Their dog died, whatever. Doesn't matter. Bottom line is there's somebody to talk to. They listen. They're neutral. They give you advice. You don't have to take their advice, but they give you another side of it, or they give you something to work with. That's all they're doing. But it's important. Trust me, it works. There's millions upon millions of people out there that go all the time, and it does work.
And that includes sexual assault, sexual harassment.
That's a fact. Navy relieves entire amphibious chain of command due to loss of confidence. How could no one died in this one? Nobody. This is from command climate, and he pissed off somebody just like that Captain Crozier did. Nobody died, yet 10 people die in the COs in charge of the George Washington. I'm telling you, if I was one of the parents, I'd be on Congress and my senator like crazy, allowing that guy to still be in charge. There is no way I'd allow that guy to be in charge. They fire this whole chain of command over stuff like that, but they won't fire him over 10 deaths. Remember, when you're dead, you're not coming back to life, in case somebody forgot that.
They all need to be fired from the George Washington.
Hey, lawmakers, I got this one. Lawmakers press Amazon's sales of chemicals. They're mailing chemicals through the mail. The lawmakers are spending their time on that, which don't get me wrong, that's an important thing. The whole thing about it is, what about all these suicides? These chemical things, there may be some people dying. They're not dying in the numbers of the suicides. When are we going to spend time when we need to spend time? Let's see what we got here. Force general found guilty of forcible kissing. Unbelievable. That was unbelievable. This person was found guilty. Boy, did they hammer the person. They used him as an example. This is hilarious. I have first time ever a general. Think about how long the military has been around and think about how many of your friends, buddies, and relatives went to captain's mast for the dumbest thing in the world. And think about this general, what it took, the first one ever. So all these admirals and everybody else got out of this. All those years got away with this stuff and nothing was ever done. Finally, something's done. And even what they're doing is not good enough. I guarantee this person still retires with full pay and everything, or he's reduced a rank.
That's exactly what's happening. I read that. He is being retired, full benefits.
Of course. I mean, it must be nice to be retired 20 grand a month. What more could you ask for, huh? You could go fondle somebody, do whatever you want to them, and the worst thing that's going to happen to you, you're going to have to retire at 20 grand a month. Unbelievable.
And it won't go on his record outside of the military.
So he could do it again. If he works someone else, he's one of our board of directors, honorary board of directors or something, he could do it again to somebody else. And it never existed the first time, of course.
Exactly.
So these subjects are horrible. Now let's talk about some recent events. Look at those school shootings. They're horrible. There are no words for what's going on with that. But I do want to point something out to you. Again, I'm not comparing it because what's happening at these schools are horrible. But I want to tell you something you need to know. You send your kids to school and you expect the school to keep them safe. I get that. We did it with our son, and we did expect that. Next thing you know, they're dead from school shootings, and they didn't do enough. And you're probably right. I'm not going to deny that. But your son or daughter's dead. Okay, remember that feeling. Now, let's take this into perspective. Those people that just died recently, it's horrible. You realize that in 1/4 more people die from suicide in the military than what happened at that school? And do you realize that in a year or 2 years' time, sometimes that there are no shootings? None. There are actually zeros where the suicides keep going up every year. So there's thousands, hundreds upon hundreds of suicides a year in the military, and nobody's doing anything. These people are dead. They're not dying because they want to. I'm telling you, they're in a corner. They feel helpless. They're forced. Their hands were pushed. They had nowhere to go. No one would help them. They were betrayed. It's like their family turned on them, literally. That is exactly how they feel. Yeah. And a lot of these people, you'll find out we're hard chargers. We all think they're the dirtbags. They are not. I'm telling you, you're a hard charger and that chain of command turns on you. There ain't no feeling. You have no idea what you see. It is no different than a poor dog that goes to the bathroom on the floor. You beat the heck out of the dog, break its leg, do whatever. It has no reason why. It does not know why you're doing it. This is exactly what it feels like. Minus the beating up. But then again, deep down, you wished you were beat up and that was the end of it instead of what they're going to put you through. Trust me, because it just follows you forever. Stuff. It ruins your career, your life, everything. And then you look back on it and you forgive. See, we're taught classic conditioning in the military to let it go, to move on. They want you to do that. That's what they want you to do. But back to the school shootings. So anyway, the president gets on TV enough and it's enough. How much more carnage does there need to be? I agree with him. I wholeheartedly agree with the president. But my point being is, look at the suicides. How many more people need to die by suicide in the military before he does something? And it's not just him. It was before him. They were told by us, don't get me wrong, Trump was far from perfect, but they knew about it. Congress knows. We almost talk to everyone in Congress, literally almost every one of them. A bunch of them said they were going to do something. They didn't do anything. Some said they were and did. And of course, we had help and we got a bill passed, which is the Brandon Act. Brandon Act was signed by President Biden on 27 December 2021. That is the law of the land. It might not be implemented. That doesn't matter. If you have an issue, you say, I invoke the Brandon Act. They don't have a choice but to allow you to do what it says. And the simplicity is you go to mental health and they can't retaliate against you. And they can't mark your UA either. That's a fact. So if you need to use that, use it. But we got that passed. That was one of the ways on the zero. So net zero suicides. That's what we want. But anyway, the carnage needs to stop. It's assault rifles doing this. Well, what's doing it in the military? Chain of commands. How do I know this? Because we talked to thousands of families and the stories are the same. I could be an observer. You could get a family gathering of Gold Star families and you could have somebody talk to them individually. And I'll stand in the background and I could put together their story just like that. That's how easy it is. That's the pattern. They're all the same. Every one of them. That's the sad part. You know what the difference is? Some commands are smart. You know what they do? They roll out the red carpet for them. And that way the parents never get suspicious or anything. And then the body comes back. You don't even think to look at it or anything. You just friggin' bury it or cremate it. In our son's case, we made a vital mistake. There were warning signs and we didn't look. We didn't know. He wanted to be cremated. We had him cremated. We had no idea that we probably cremated some things that we could have used against him because there's shenanigans going on with our son. There's no doubt in our mind. But we didn't know at the time. But in our son's case, let me tell you, you heard it. If you haven't heard this before, I'll tell you right now. The casualty assistance officers, that's who rings your doorbell. They were told by the command to tell us that our son was alive in the hospital. They called the command and said, we can't do this. They ordered them to do it and they still said no. You know why they said no? Because they were E7s and they said, we have to tell them the truth. Had they been an E6 or below, you know what they would have done. Yeah. The message said he was alive in the hospital. They wrote that message to me. Not only did they write that message, they put out a fake news article saying there was a safety mishap in Norfolk, Virginia, and that ran through the news that day. That's how casualty assistants got alerted. They got an alert on their phone, and they pulled over, and they looked at the article, and that's why they called the command. And they said, is this guy alive or dead? We're down the street from the parents' house. And they told him to tell us that he was alive in the hospital. That kid, I'm here to tell you, they never moved him. He died. The moment he died, those people all ran away. They were on that flight line. Every one of them ran away. Nobody rendered first aid. They let that kid there on the flight line. They left him there to bleed out and die. He was on that tarmac for 6 hours. He went from there to the morgue. He never went to the hospital. This is factual, okay? They had to be reminded he was out there by somebody that actually knew him later that night. They put it behind them that quickly, I guess, or the shredders were going, of course, and all the evidence was being, and they were all talking to each other, coming up with their stories to try and match each other, because they knew that I was retired Navy, and if they didn't know, they found out, and they were having a heart attack about it because they knew that I told the CO I was going to get to the bottom of it. So bottom line is that was going to happen, but they were told the lie from the get-go. So how in the world could you expect them to be truthful in any investigation? You can't. That's why you need the FBI to investigate. And we are going to get the FBI to investigate. That will happen. You watch. It's coming. Watch. Don't believe me. Watch. Lie to an FBI agent, you're going to jail. I love it. That's how it is. That's how it's supposed to be. They'll never lie to them. Or I hope they do, actually. I want them to lie to them. Believe me. Because they already know. Because they're going to come to us first. And we're going to give them everything. And we're going to go over everything. And we're going to tell them exactly what they're going to do, what they're going to say. I got it all down. And they're going to friggin' know ahead of time. And then we'll get some justice for our son. But again, the biggest justice you could possibly do for our son would be to let's get suicide together to net zero. That's what we need to do together. That is the biggest thing we could do is help future families from this happening too. Our military is the greatest in the world. I have no doubt. We love the military, but they're turning their head to this problem and they need to stop. This is important. They need to work with us. We have things that we could do. We want to work with them, but they refuse to work with us. Basically, they ignore us. And that's where the problem lies. Also, they work with who they want to, and they work with the wrong organizations and organizations that don't know what they're doing. We know what we're doing. We're not perfect. We are new, but the bottom line is our intent is there. And just so you know, 85% of our money goes back out. We don't draw salaries. We're not going to draw salaries. Our board does not draw salaries. None of us draw salaries, and we're not gonna, ever. Someday board members may draw a salary. When I say that, that's up to them, but that'll mean we're gone. But in order to be on our board, you are not going to draw a salary. That's expected of you. So the bottom line is we donate it back. We help families. We're watch. We stand watch with you. We travel. We go to events. We're going to hold events in the future. We're going to buy benches dedicated to fallen military members. We have all these things on the horizon plan. We do need donations, though, and we need your help with that. I just want you to know up front, this is going to be in writing soon, too, that all of 15% is operating costs, 85% is going right back out. And we're actually shooting for around 94% going back out. We're hoping that we get only 6%, but that'll also depend on how much donation, sponsorship, and all that we get, of course. All that's going to have a hand in the amounts that go back out, but it's going to go back out. That's where the money needs to go. Needs to use Brandon's story to educate the public to save lives. Because if we work together, we're unstoppable. We've proven that time and time again together. And, you know, it's like the Brandon Act. We wrote it, we advocated for it, we did have some help. We had Congress help us, some people in Congress, I'll word it that way. And we couldn't have done it alone. And if we didn't have help, and there were many families out there that helped the people. When I say help, they didn't give us money. We didn't take any money from anybody. We were determined we weren't going to do that. We paid for everything ourselves. But we knew it was a greater cause. We knew it's what Brandon wanted, and we knew his legacy is saving lives. So that's what we did. And that's what we're going to do. It got passed. We're going to use this to save lives. Now what we need to do is force change on the military. They don't want to change. They don't have a choice because too many kids are dying. And I'm telling you, you think it can't happen to you, it can and will happen to you. I'm here to tell you. So what do you do to make sure it doesn't happen? We change things now. Now we change them to make sure it doesn't happen. And maybe, just maybe, some of you, I hate to tell you this, you're going to lose your son or daughter to our cause, meaning there's more that are going to die. There's going to be thousands more to die before we get this to zero. But what we can do is stop that from happening in the future. Cure active duty, you'll cure the veterans problem. Because in order to be a veteran, you had to serve on active duty. We fix active duty. We fix it together. We work together. That's how we fix these things. I speak to you, we speak to you both from the heart and tell you the truth. I know sometimes the truth is hard. It's hard to believe sometimes. As a matter of fact, I had thought I saw everything on active duty. 22 years is a long time, and I was in recruiting, and believe me, I saw a lot of stuff. And I was in the war, Desert Storm. I saw some stuff that I'll never talk about. And it's, I just could tell you that I can't believe that this command did what they did. But we were just part of the George Washington stuff. And I can't believe that command did what they did. Unbelievable how they don't care about these people. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, like I've said before, you've heard me, but I'll say it again. A child drowns in Arizona. The police chief comes on. Police chief is disgusted. He's not mad at the parents, mad at himself for themselves for not doing enough, and they could do more. And how in the world could we be here with all the things we have in place? And they have a lot. I mean, they'll buy you a pool fence. They'll buy you doors, automatic closing doors. I mean, they have a list of things, gates that close. I mean, all these things they do to prevent this, and we still have a bunch of deaths. And they're disgusted. You look at a suicide, you look at whoever talks about that, and you look at them when they talk about it. They are not disgusted. They don't even care. That part is almost as bad as the death, yet alone the cover up. Don't forget about that. But not caring. Our son, I'm here to tell you, that kid never did anything to anybody ever in his life. He loved people for people. He liked you, whether you could, whether you were popular or not, whether you had money or not. He didn't care what color you were. He didn't care if you were handicapped, disabled, whatever, special needs. He didn't care. He treated everybody equally. He never did anything. And he was totally respectful to everybody. And I'm here to tell you, in Arizona, we're devastated he's dead. All the people that knew him and loved him, his friends here are devastated. I don't know, some of them might not ever be the same. That's a fact too, I'm not exaggerating. And he did not deserve this. He deserves better. So join our journey. I'll thank you now. Come join us and help us on this journey to get this to zero. We need your help. We need to build, lack of better words, an army. We need to build an army, and we need to soldier together to fix this. It's the only way you could do it. And that's where you have to look at, because there's some really good people out there. These are not dirtbags. I played the song today for my wife. There's a song out there by Queen. Listen to the words from the game. There's a song, it's called Don't Try Suicide. I'm here to tell you, it's actually a popular song in its time too, believe it or not. He had it right on. It was made in 1980. Freddie Mercury had it right on. He wrote it. He talks about all the things. If you listen to it, it pertained to the 80s up to probably 2000, I'd say 2004 or 5. And then society totally changed. But I know it's easy to blame the person that takes their life, suicide. And the song kind of says that to a certain degree, but it does cover other aspects. But the thing about it is, that's not what's going on here. There's more to it than that. You need to understand that to want to be involved. That's the difference of turning the corner on this, is understanding that there's more to it than this. You don't believe us? We've talked to hundreds of psychologists. They've told us the same thing. They've validated and verified our thoughts. We've talked to doctors, you name it, we talked to them. No, we didn't talk to social workers. I'm sorry. Social worker's not a psychologist. They could get mad all they want to. I have a minor in sociology from Arizona State University. I know exactly what it is and how it works. And if anything, a sociologist should be out there beating a drum anyway, because society dictates policy. What is a social worker? Is society. I mean, not sociology, society. They know how it works. They should be smarter than a psychologist. They're not on the subject matter. So anyway, but I challenge you sociologists to get involved here and point out what's going on, and my point about the song, and my point about how it's different and how things are not that way. That would be very helpful. That would show how much you really care and how much you understand what's going on out there. That's important. The other thing I want to go over is chaplains. You know, chaplains are great. They're great people, but I'm telling you, I don't know that they're the person to go to with this stuff. And if you do, that's fine. If you feel you can get the help from a chaplain, that's fine, but you need to go to a psychologist. But if nobody's around, like I said, you talk to whoever you need to. And if you feel more comfortable with a chaplain, by all means. Remember, all chaplains are nice people. There's no doubt in my mind. I've never met a chaplain that wasn't nice, okay? They're great people. They just kind of are there. I mean, they help you, but they help you in a different manner, in different ways. And maybe what you do is you go to a psychologist, and you go to a social worker, and you go to a chaplain, and maybe together all of that will get you through whatever you're going through. That's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Hopefully that will help you. And if that's what it takes, then so be it. Whatever it takes to get you through the crisis that you're going through. Now, the last subject I want to talk about, sorry to be so long. You know, since day one I was born, we were taught there's a heaven and hell. And we were taught that, you know, if you're good, you go to heaven. If you're bad, you go to hell. It's basically, in a nutshell, what happens. There's probably more to it than that. There is, but for simplicity. So I want to point out these 13 people that killed our son. These people are out there. They don't care. They're not doing anything, never been held accountable. And they've killed others, trust me. Brandon's not the first by any means. One of them brags about it. AE1 Bros was taking bets on when somebody was going to die before Brandon. And he bragged about killing Brandon. And he still brags about it to this day. So how is it that, what is the plan that these chain of commands have that they're going to get by all this someday? I mean, sooner or later, this catches up with you. How does it not? We've always been taught that this stuff catches up with you. So my point is, there ain't a priest in the world you can go to, or a pastor or whatever. You can beg for forgiveness all you want to. They're not going to exonerate you from killing someone. They'll listen to you. But the bottom line is they're going to follow you the rest of your life. So my point is it's best to do the right thing up front. Let's do the right thing. Help somebody. If you're going to get trouble, help them anonymously. Anonymously works out very well in this stuff. Do it anonymously. That's what you need to do. There is no excuse for being anonymous. You have an excuse, I'm afraid, for my career. I get it. I understand. I don't agree with you, but I do get it and understand. But anonymous, there's no excuse whatsoever, none. You need to go down that road and get the help for those people. Care about those people. They're all human beings. And you need those people. I don't understand. If you had a work center of 40 people and you lost 2 of them to suicide and they're not going to be replaced for a year, how in the world do you just suck that up? That's sad that you would do that. You just carry on business as normal and put more weight on the others. That is so unfair to do. Now, if that was in war, that's different, okay? That's not what happened here. So look out for your fellow service members. Start doing that. I'm telling you, you'll feel better in life. The other thing is help them out. I'm here to tell you, you help somebody out that's in crisis. That feeling is something you won't forget. That'll follow you for the rest of your life in a positive aspect. Matter of fact, you'll like it so much you want to continue to help people. It's one of the uniquenesses about a psychologist. They help so many people. They actually like doing it. They love their jobs because they get to help people. And that's what you need to do yourselves is love people and help them. Again, I'm not going to tell you I was perfect in the military, but the bottom line is I never wrote anybody up my entire career, ever, never planned on it. And the bottom line is, yes, I yelled at people. Yeah, yelling didn't hurt them because they weren't written up. And when they were late 15 times in a month, I didn't send them the captain's mass. I wasn't too happy about it and they knew it. But I didn't even contemplate sending them the captain's mass. Ironically, the following months after that, they weren't late anymore. It's kind of amazing how people can fix things when you can present it to them properly on why they're making a mistake and what's going on and what jeopardy they're putting themselves in. It's amazing how they can figure that out. That right there says it all. Help people get through these things and help them. People don't deliberately want to do things like you think. They might not like the military. I understand a lot of people join the military. It's not what they thought it would be. But most people will do their time and get out and not look back. We need those people. We need them to work. We need them to do their tours. We need them to get out. We need them to get jobs in the public. We need them to support other veterans. We need them. They need to be positive. A lot of people leave with a bad taste in their mouth. And then that just never goes away. It'll catch up later. Right now, society is behind. It's coming. Trust me. There's a lot of them out there that aren't going to do anything. There's a record number. I used to, years ago, I always asked for a military discount. Everybody gave. You know how many now? It's like 50-50. Get military discount? No. Just like that.
I know, right?
I had to default to senior discount. I don't even qualify for that yet, apparently. But it used to be everybody gave it. Now they don't. I'm telling you, I don't ask them, but some of those people are veterans. Trust me. Trust me. This is what I mean by you pay later. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You pay. And it's no different. Somebody comes to your house, you want your bathroom remodeled, you want an awesome deal. That person's a veteran. You don't even know it. And that person doesn't give you a good deal. You ask for military discount. Nah, that's the best I could do. Did they tell you the truth or not? You'll never know, will you? That's what I'm trying to tell you. It could be a secret too. You'll never even know. Where the person before them was a regular person and they knew that and they weren't a veteran and they freaking basically gave it to them for nothing. That's what I'm talking about. You don't understand. Society's changed. The secrets in society have changed. Look at that. Anyway, I've taken over enough of your time. The next one will be another one. I don't know. I'm going to do these as often as we can. The next one will be on headline news. We just had to talk about chain of commands real quickly. Yeah, feedback, give it. Again, I want the positive feedback. The negative stuff's not helping us. And if I forgot something, you're welcome to point it out. But it's all the positive things we need to use, or maybe the things we're not doing that we need to use. Defending toxic, abusive leadership and abuse of power is about useless. It's not productive. We are going to put that energy into saving lives. We're not putting that energy going down that road. No, we're saving lives. We're all positive, working together, saving lives. I guess one would say, let bygones be bygones. If you could turn these toxic leaders around, even the ones with blood on their hands, you'll save future lives, number one. Number two is you'll make things easier for everybody later on. So now's the time to do something. You can make a difference just by doing that, yet alone the future ones, those hard chargers that are going to lead someday, those are the ones we need to mold properly, because we know when they take over and they're E7 and above, or captains, that they're going to be great people. And we know we left the military in great hands. That's what we need to do. And the suicides will be zero. Matter of fact, the suicides going to zero will be national news to no end. Believe me, the military will taunt that around to no end. They'll take all the credit for it too. And they set up a bunch of hotlines. It's going to be you that fixes it. You're going to have the credit. You can smile internally and trust me, you're going to heaven for it. Take my word for it. You could ask your priest if you don't believe me. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Whole Truth and Nothing But the Truth podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Keep listening for our next episodes. If there is a military topic you would like to discuss, please leave a comment and we will get to it. Thank you.